Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Preston here, and today this is another video and another preview and prediction. And today this is Edgar Berlanga versus Jason Quigley, and the co-main event Adam Kownacki versus Joe Cusumano. So let's go to the opener, the co-main event. All right, so let's start off with our co-main event, Adam Kownacki versus Joe Cusumano. All right, so let's start off with Adam Kownacki. Adam Kownacki comes into the fight with a record of 20 wins, 3 losses, 0 draws, 15 wins coming by way of knockout. He has a height of 6'3" and has the reach of 76 inches. And his most recent fights, let's go all the way to he beat the Khalidze dude. I know who that is. You can say that was a good win. Also Archer Spuka, he beat Archer Spuka, Adam Kownacki. And then he beat Charles Martin and then beat up Gerald Washington, then had a brawl with Chris Arreola, and broke the punch the record for the most punches. I don't know if it's for, like in the heavyweight division only or overall. And then after that, he had his 2 losses against Robert Helenius. First fight against Robert Helenius, he lost by a TKO. I believe it was in the 4th round. I'm confident that it was in the 4th round. In the second fight, it was by TKO, but it was first a DQ win for Robert Helenius, but then it was kind of a premature DQ, in my opinion, because I didn't really see anything going on. And Robert Helenius was already winning that fight. So I don't really know, what anybody was really talking about. Because, he did his job and it was a clear win by Robert Helenius. And then after that, he went against Ali Aaron Demirezen. The dude's pretty good. He's 16-1. I believe he's from Georgia or Poland, one of those two. I would assume. And then he lost a unanimous decision. And now he's fighting Joe Cusumano. And now let's go to Joe Cusumano. Joe Cusumano comes into the fight with a record of 21 wins, 4 losses, 0 draws, 19 wins coming by way of knockout. He has a height of 6'4" and his reach is anonymous because it doesn't really show. In his most recent fights, he lost against this guy called Steve Vokoza. I'm not very sure of who that guy is. But then he won against Gregory Corbin, whoever that guy is. After that, he went into a pay-per-view fight against Daniel Dubois, and that was on the pay-per-view fight with Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. I believe it was the first fight. Yes, it was the first fight. And then after that, he got starched in the first round quite easily, just hasn't really been heard of ever since. Then he had his 2 wins. I'm not really going to say their names because they're pointless wins in my opinion. Alright, so let's go to what their techniques are and what my final prediction is for this fight. So Adam Kownacki has good volume with his punches. And adding to that, Adam doesn't stop throwing punches, and in fact, can go all night throwing a lot of punches. He keeps coming forward, has heart, but does get hit a lot. And against top fighters, his chin can't really last that long, And the thing is, Adam Kownacki has no use of using head movement and just stands straight up when he fights and has slow footwork. Now let's get to Joe Cusumano. Joe Cusumano is a very big puncher and is very big himself. Only needs to hit you once to then make you regret why you came into the fight. He's also very patient, and that's why he's so deadly. But can easily get beat to the punch though. His body looks soft and open 24/7. And also his chin is wide open. because the dude he does they don't both these fighters don't really show like any type of like defense or anything. They kind of just get punched in the face and deal with it, you know. And this is that kind of fight that we're gonna get. And kind of leading into my final thoughts for the fight. This is going to be a bloody fight because both fighters don't use defense at all and just throws punches. And in this fight, it's more of who is the stronger fighter because Kownacki non-stop throws and actually broke the record, just like I said, for the most punches ever thrown, like against Chris Arreola. And I don't know, but I don't know if it was again the most in the heavyweight division or if it was most overall in history. Because I'm pretty sure those flyweights and minimum weights and like those lower weight classes, those guys can throw up to like damn near like almost a million punches literally. And they can go like they could go much longer than 12 rounds throwing that many hands. So I'm guessing it's probably the most in the heavyweight division. But Joe Cusumano, he could win this fight because he's a very big dude and is way bigger than Kownacki and is a very big puncher and usually only needs one shot to hurt you. My final prediction for this fight. My final prediction on this fight is a hard prediction because again, both fighters are going to be throwing for the trenches and are going to be blooded up. But I feel like Cusumano is going to pull up the upset. Because Cusumano is going to be the fighter, in my opinion, that is going to become victorious in this fight. Because all he needs to do is throw with Kownacki. And if he does that, then he will have the power advantage. And when they throw punches, Kownacki isn't going to throw that much punches for that much longer. Because just like I said, one or two punches is what Cusumano only needs, at least in this fight, to hurt you and stop you. So my final prediction for this fight is Joe Cusumano by an early round stoppage or a mid-round stoppage. Alright, next up we got the main event of the evening. Edgar Berlanga versus Jason Quigley. Alright, so first up, we got Edgar Berlanga. Edgar Berlanga comes into the fight with a record of 20 wins, 0 losses, 0 draws, 16 wins coming by way of knockout. He stands at a height of 6'1" and has a reach of 73 inches. And the thing is about freaking Edgar Berlanga is that Edgar, he used to been the guy, he used to been a very hot prospect. The thing is that's kind of sad in my opinion is that he's kind of like, turning into, he's not really, like it's almost like he's not in his prime anymore. It's like this is only how good Edgar Berlanga gets, And Edgar has not looked that impressive. The only time that we saw Edgar look impressive is when he had all those 16 first round knockouts against all those opponents, Because all those opponents that he fought couldn't handle his power. But in reality, he was extremely overrated. In his last fights, let's go with like his last 3 TKO wins, which was all in 2020. He had a KO win over Eric Moon, had a TKO win against Lenio Bellows, I'm guessing. Then after that, had a TKO win against Ulysses Sierra. Then after that, he started stepping up in competition, and then he started actually facing a lot tougher fighters and fought a guy who is 23-3-1 named Damon Nicholson. And Damon Nicholson is actually a guy that I seen fight a couple of times. Because before that fight, I seen him fight Jesse Hart that one time. And he was getting Jesse Hart a little bit, but then he lost because he got stopped in that fight. But then after that fight, he went against Marcelo Esteban Corceres. And I watched that fight actually because it was on the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder trilogy fight. I think it was like the opening bell, I think, and then he won the fight. He busted up the dude's face, but he got dropped in that fight, and that was really not a good look. You know, because Marcelo did only have 2 losses. So, I mean, you could say that. But then after that, he fought Steve Rolls. He took a year off and fought Steve Rolls. And Steve Rolls, 21-1. Obviously, at the time, his only loss came to Triple G. But then he won by unanimous decision. And I think it was one of the fights where I think he won. I didn't really watch the fight because I really could care less. But I mean, it was like one of those fights where like he won the fight but didn't win comfortably. Or it was one of the fights that he got gifted the fight, and stuff. Because I don't know, because I think I heard people say that Steve Rolls, was boxing Berlanga's ears off. And then after that, he fought Romer Alexis Angulo. He won by unanimous decision. Obviously, Angulo's only 2 losses came from Zerto Ramirez and David Benavidez, and stuff like that. And he didn't look that good in that fight either. He looked quite slow, and he made it a good fight between him and Alexis Angulo. And that's not that good at all, because Angulo is a damn gatekeeper and has been a gatekeeper for a very long time. And yeah. Next up, we got Jason Quigley from Ireland. Alright, Jason Quigley comes into the fight with the record of 20 wins, 2 losses, 0 draws, 14 wins coming by way of knockout. He stands at a height of 6'1" with the reach of 71.5 inches. His recent fights came from, let's just start off to make it shorter. Shane Mosley Jr. won by a majority decision, in a pretty good fight. Mainly won the fight because Shane Mosley got tired, and he was also landing a very accurate jab throughout that fight that won him the fight. And then Shane Mosley, once he felt that power, well, I'm not saying Quigley got that much power, but he felt the power with Mosley. Like Mosley felt Quigley's power, and then he started not engaging as much, and then that's when he started losing against Jason Quigley. Then after that he got annihilated by Demetrius Andrade and lost by a TKO. But we all know who was gonna win that fight, and now he's fighting Edgar Berlanga. So now let's get to how these guys are gonna do and how their skill sets are and etc. Alright, so first up we got Edgar Berlanga. Edgar got good power depending on the fight that he has. He does chase you down like decently. He is pretty confident, racks up points by throwing power shots, but doesn't have good defense at all. Struggles with his power. He does struggle with his power, because wait, hold on. Oh yeah, he struggles when his power doesn't work, because then he looks super boring and basic, because that's really what Edgar Berlanga is really boring and basic. I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm starting to get tired of Berlanga. And Berlanga doesn't have the fastest footwork either, So I mean, he's more slow with any of his techniques, but he just has power though, and such. Next up we got Jason Quigley. Jason Quigley fights from the outside, but when he wants to be more engaged, he starts closing the distance on you. He loves using the jab and is pretty accurate with the jab. But the thing is, he does get hit a lot and isn't that good at throwing any other punches besides the jab. Because, he's not really good at throwing any, kind of just like I said, isn't really good at throwing any other punches. Quigley likes to fight from the outside, but is slow at his footwork and a lot of the time doesn't really find that much success, fighting from the outside. My final thoughts on this fight. My final thoughts on this fight. This is going to be a tough fight because Berlanga is going to be the aggressor by overpowering Quigley, forcing Quigley to stay back with his strong punches. Quigley is going to do good by making sure the fight is at distance, so Quigley can quickly land punches and kind of the term that I used in my last video. Just like what Mayweather said, hit and not get hit. Well, kind of like what I was saying about Julian J. Rock Williams. He should hit and not get hit against Carlos Adames. Because Quigley can easily win this fight from his jab. He just more needs to work on his footwork because that's his only chance in this fight is that he needs to really fight from the outside, so then he doesn't allow Berlanga to come in and, land his big shots. My final prediction for this fight, even though Quigley most definitely can win and will fight hard in this fight, I still feel like Edgar Berlanga would still win this fight, mainly because he is the bigger name, and even if Quigley did win in our eyes, I still feel like they would rob Quigley and give the fight to Edgar Berlanga. Plus, Berlanga is the stronger puncher in this fight, and Quigley is not really a strong puncher at all, and does not do good when forced to come in by other fighters. So my final prediction is Edgar Berlanga by a unanimous decision or maybe a stoppage in the later rounds, but I highly doubt that will happen. So my most confident answer will be Edgar Berlanga winning this fight by a unanimous decision. So that's my final prediction for both these fights. I got not Adam Kownacki. I got Joe Cusumano defeating Adam Kownacki, guessing by an upset, and I have him beating Adam Kownacki by either a early or mid-round stoppage, and then I have Edgar Berlanga defeating Jason Quigley by a slow-paced, unanimous decision win. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'm Preston, and peace out.